Hi, I'm Amisha, and I'm a journalism student. My project is on a transgender high schooler in New Hampshire who was navigating exclusion because of anti-trans policies in the state. I was advised by Professor Mitch Sukoff in the Department of Journalism at and yeah. So, what is a nonfiction narrative? It is a story that unfolds through characters, scene, and action, similar to movies or a fiction book. However, it's entirely factual, down to every detail. It is built around a theme or a central question, usually attaching a little story, which in this case is that of one trans athlete in New Hampshire, to a larger story, which is the impact of anti-trans legislation on youth. When I started thinking of a keystone, I knew I wanted to write a narrative, but on what? So this is Mel Jacques, a trans teen athlete in New Hampshire, and here's an excerpt from my story draft to introduce you to her. Maëlle Jacques, a 17-year-old from Sunapee, New Hampshire, is one of 3 out trans high school athletes in the state, and the only out trans girl at her school, Kearsarge. She's resilient, she's sensitive and kind, she's witty, thoughtful, and a loyal teammate. She often hums to fill in empty spaces between conversations. She naturally walks at a sped-up pace. She loves to paint. Her brown eyes pierce through the long, springy curls in a matching shade of brown that curtain her slightly large circular glasses. Maëlle has played soccer since the age of 3. At her high school, she has been a goalkeeper in the fall and participated in long jump on the track team in the spring. Maëlle doesn't see sport as competition. She sees it as a means to make friends. It is how she found belonging when she entered the public school system, new and wary in the 6th grade, after years of homeschool with just her brother and mom. Last year, right before the start of preseason, Maëlle's coach pulled her aside minutes before practice began. House Bill 1205, the bill banning transgender girls in grades 5 to 12 from participating in girls' sports teams, which passed on July 26th, had gone into effect a few days ago. For the school, Maëlle's participation had become a legal risk. With the current law, we don't want to risk it. We can't let you play, said the coach in a plain voice, according to Maëlle. Okay, she replied. With her cheek in hand, Maëlle sat outside the field's white markings, watching her teammates play for the next 2 hours, startled and droopy-eyed. I think my brain had a hard time processing the ban because soccer was something I really couldn't imagine not being in my life, said Maëlle. Although she knew the law had passed, its immediate exclusion shocked her. She felt let down, she said. Sports, once synonymous with community, now made her scandalous, a target for politicians, anti-trans advocates, and peers, amid the usual stress of high school, the challenges of transitioning, the upheaval of moving in with her grandmother after her dad's arrest, and a flickering relationship with her mom at the time. The sudden politicization of her hobby created a new torment she's still trying to flee. How did this happen? It's all a part of the trickle-down effects of exclusionary legislation. And this is how I went about reporting on it. So the first step was research and coverage. I landed on this topic while I was browsing through the anti-trans legislation tracker. And over the past 3 years, there's been a 67% increase in anti-trans policies passed across the US. This is a graphic that shows that. I read up through a bunch of research papers and spoke with legal experts as well as those public health researchers. And the data and research really deepened my understanding, but those facts did not show what it means to experience the harm and the toll of it. So the only way to show that The only way to show that, I really wanted to show how these statistics manifest in real life. And to do that was to tell someone's story that's representative of the larger issue. You may have forgotten the percentage I just mentioned or the numbers on the previous screen, but you probably remember the scene of Mel watching her teammates play from the sidelines. So to answer that, I landed on the central question, which is, what is it like to grow up as a transgender teenager in an anti-trans state, where anti-trans means a state that has either passed or considered anti-trans bills? So the second step was casting, or finding a character. And to do that, I really wanted to go through every piece of online content I could find with the keywords transgender and teenager. So I went on Nexus and advanced Google search, looked up those keywords, and read every single article or paper that showed up. And I looked through all the news stories looking for individuals who had been either quoted or mentioned in other news articles. However, they hadn't shared their full story yet. And from that point on, I built a list of potential subjects who matched that specific criteria that I had in mind. And after reaching out to them, I found Mael to be the best person, best position to bring depth and clarity to the central question I mentioned. And then came a series of interviews. I didn't just want to understand Mael's experiences from her perspective. I wanted a fuller picture. So I wanted to look at all angles from both sides of the issue and talk to people in her inner and outer circles. This process helped me uncover the different aspects of her story, cross-check information, and even identify moments that she had unintentionally blocked out, like for instances of bullying that her brother told me about that she couldn't remember the full details of. Over time, I built a trusting relationship with Mael. I visited her in New Hampshire, read her journal entries, birthday cards, notes from her friends. I saw posters on the yellow walls of her rooms, chatted with her while I was sitting on her carpet. I saw jerseys that were tucked in her closet and found out they were signed by her favorite non-binary soccer players. And I got to know her inner thoughts, the feelings that shaped her choices and actions. She told me what she overheard in tense conversation between her mom and her mom's partner, how she prepared for her testimony, how she felt while walking down the stairs while going to the principal's office when she was told she couldn't participate in track last month. The shock that she experienced when her father was arrested for possession of child pornography. These insights all came from small, seemingly trivial questions like asking what color of cones she bought while she was practicing on the sidelines, or even broader questions like how she felt when she saw that she was misgendered online. I also used some other tactics like being silent for moments just long enough that she would fill it with her inner thoughts, or accompanying her in like normal tasks like making toast. Overall, being empathetic and showing that I care about her by checking in often is what really built the trust, I think. Online hate, and more specifically, the invasion of privacy, emerged as a central aspect of my story, or a central theme. And here's a quote from her. There was just so much negativity that when I caught myself Googling myself, I was just like, okay, quit it, because it doesn't have any positive end result, she said. It was not good for my mental health, considering I was already in a bad state. So through her story, I put a face to what research showed about how trans policy creates harm at different levels. At the institutional level, Mael was denied the opportunity to participate with her team and compete in track now. At the individual level, we know that Mael faced these mental health impacts and through like online hate that was covered about her. However, she also started internalizing that hate, and it pushed her to a point where she wanted to graduate early and move to Canada. This is a quote from her. I noticed an uptick in people being assholes after the election because people think that gives them the right to be assholes, which I guess it does because that is what is happening, she said. That's why I'm leaving. At the interpersonal level, Mael experienced what Dr. Barbie, a public health researcher I talked to, found, which is that these laws create permission structure for increased discrimination and more negative exchanges between trans people and their peers. So I will read a part of the scene that actually shows that. Kearsarge High School turned cold come spring. It wasn't just the paralyzing chill of a New Hampshire January. Mael was in French class when she got a notification from Snapchat. Removed from upcoming KGKA 2025 season, the girls' soccer captain booted Mael from the team group chat, one of the highest forms of social abandonment in the world of high school cliquishness. She messaged a friend to add her back. Removed from upcoming KGKA 2025 season, the captain had kicked her out again. Currently, I'm in the writing phase of my story, and soon my professor would be editing it, and then I'd fact check it again, and then hopefully pitch it to a publication and edit it according to their style. And I would really like to thank Mael for trusting me, for sharing her story, and my professor for guiding me through all the steps of reporting and soon editing. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one quick question. All right, yeah, in the back.
So obviously this is a very sensitive and also controversial kind of story for Mael. How did you go about convincing her to share her story with you? You talked about building trust with her throughout the reporting process, but how did you come across or overcome that initial barrier of just getting access?
Right. So initially, I actually DM'd her on Instagram because since she is young, like I found that's better than emailing. And I told her a little bit about myself and told her she can feel free to look me up and read anything about me like I did for her. And I think she found that like organic. So yeah, and then she reached back out to me, said she's open to like a call, and then I called her. I really talked about the intention of why I want to report on this and my own experiences and stuff like that. And yeah, I think she felt super comfortable with me, which is why she went ahead with it. And yeah, we did a few Zoom calls before I visited her and then continued on after.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to transition to the next speaker, which will be Elizabeth.